From stagnant to productive, stop procrastinating in just 1 minute. What if your inability to start wasn't laziness, distraction, or lack of discipline, but a mismatch of frequency? What if the reason you can't move isn't psychological at all, but neurological? A dissonance between thought and energy that keeps your consciousness out of rhythm with action. This video isn't another pep talk about motivation. It's a decoding of the invisible mechanisms that govern your energy, your focus, and your timing. You're about to learn how to synchronize your brain in just 1 minute. The same neural pattern that elite athletes, inventors, and mystics enter when they perform with effortless precision. Modern neuroscience calls it the flow state, a state dominated by gamma waves, where your mind, body, and environment merge into one seamless movement. But long before science measured it, ancient scriptures described it as the moment when the Spirit moves within you. The Bible says, "In Him we live and move and have our being." What you're about to understand is that flow isn't created by effort. It's remembered by alignment. In the next minutes, you'll see how procrastination is not your enemy, but your compass. How it's guiding you toward coherence, toward a frequency where thinking, feeling, and doing become the same act. If you've ever felt stuck, staring at the task you know could change everything, this is the moment you'll finally understand why. Because procrastination isn't a failure of willpower. It's a signal from your nervous system that you're out of tune with your own creation frequency. And once you know how to tune it, once you master this 1-minute neural recalibration, the resistance dissolves and motion becomes natural again. If you stay until the end, you'll walk away with something that most people never learn in a lifetime: the biological code of effortless productivity. But if you leave now, you'll keep repeating the same invisible pattern, the loop between intention and hesitation, never realizing how close you were to rewiring it forever. So stay with me, because what you're about to discover isn't about time management or willpower or routine. It's about learning how to enter the frequency of creation itself. 1. The frequency of inaction. Procrastination begins long before you notice it. It doesn't start when you delay a task. It starts when your thoughts accelerate faster than your energy can follow. Your mind is already in the future, while your body is still anchored in the past, and that split creates a frequency gap. Every desire vibrates at a speed of completion, but when you think of what you want without embodying it, the energy short-circuits. You're not lazy, you're out of sync. Neuroscience shows that every decision begins as an electrical impulse in the brain's motor cortex milliseconds before you become aware of it. That means action is not a choice. It's a synchronization of electrical rhythm and emotional readiness. When your emotional frequency doesn't match your mental intention, the signal weakens. The thought exists, but the current doesn't flow. This is the real root of inaction: dissonance, not disinterest. Procrastination is the static that fills the gap between intention and embodiment. It's the noise your brain emits when it can't lock on to a single coherent signal. You think of what must be done, but you simultaneously broadcast doubt, fatigue, or perfectionism. The result is interference, like two radio stations colliding. In this interference, nothing moves. Spiritual texts have always hinted at this. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. The verse from James is not about morality. It's about the physics of consciousness. When you hold two contradictory vibrations, wanting to act but fearing the outcome, you paralyze your energy field. You literally split your frequency, and the universe responds by standing still. Every time you postpone action, your brain encodes that pattern of hesitation. It's a learned rhythm. The more you repeat it, the more your neurons wire it in as normal. But once you become aware of this dissonance, you can change it instantly, because awareness itself is frequency. The moment you see that your stagnation is a signal, not a flaw, you begin to shift. So pause and ask, What vibration am I sending when I say, "I'll do it later"? Is it the vibration of readiness or the vibration of resistance disguised as logic? The truth is simple. Motion happens when energy finds coherence. And coherence begins when thought, feeling, and action vibrate as one. 2. Neural jam, when the brain blocks motion. Every time you hesitate before taking action, your brain isn't disobeying you, it's protecting you. Deep inside the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, a silent dialogue unfolds between survival and evolution. The amygdala scans for threat. The prefrontal cortex calculates possibility.
When the unknown outweighs the predictable, the alarm wins and the brain freezes. What you call procrastination is the nervous system saying, "Not yet, it might not be safe." This mechanism is ancient. The same neural circuitry that once kept our ancestors alive from predators now interprets an email, a deadline, or a creative challenge as potential danger. The anterior cingulate cortex detects conflict between what you want and what feels risky, sending inhibitory signals that suppress movement. It's not laziness, it's an evolutionary reflex gone rogue in a modern world that rarely demands physical escape but constantly triggers psychological threat. The brain, when overloaded with uncertainty, chooses the familiar over the beneficial. Studies in neurobehavioral science show that the moment you think of a difficult task, stress hormones surge and the limbic system hijacks the flow of blood from the logical brain to the emotional one. That's why you suddenly crave distraction, snacks, or scrolling, not because you're weak, but because the brain is trying to restore chemical balance. Procrastination is a biochemical pause, an attempt to lower cortisol and avoid cognitive dissonance. But the same circuits that block motion can be reprogrammed. Neuroplasticity allows the creation of new pathways when repetition and emotion converge. Each time you choose a micro-action in the presence of discomfort, you override the amygdala's alarm and teach the brain that motion is safe. Over time, the pattern flips. The absence of action becomes more uncomfortable than the act itself. Spiritually, this mirrors the law of faith. The moment you trust what you cannot yet see, the path unfolds. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. When you act despite fear, you are not denying the threat, you're instructing the nervous system that creation is safer than stagnation. You shift from protection to participation. The next time you feel that internal freeze, recognize it for what it is, the body trying to keep you within its known vibration. Smile at it, then move anyway. The very act of movement sends a signal stronger than the fear that tried to hold you still. Tip 3. The myth of motivation. Motivation is the most misunderstood fuel in human behavior. We wait for it as if it were weather, hoping that one morning we'll simply wake up inspired. But neuroscience shows that motivation doesn't precede action, it follows it. Dopamine, the brain's molecule of anticipation, is released not when you think about success, but when you move toward it. Every small step fires a reward signal that says, "This direction feels alive." When you postpone a task, you deprive the brain of the very chemistry that would have driven you to finish it. The paradox is brutal. The longer you wait to act, the less motivation you have because your neural reward loop never gets triggered. Movement is not the result of motivation, it's the trigger that creates it. The brain is built to love progress, not promises. Consider experiments from Stanford and Harvard on task initiation. Participants who performed even a small symbolic action, like opening a blank document or arranging tools before starting a project, experienced a measurable spike in dopamine and focus. The message is clear. The body in motion tells the mind it's safe to proceed. Waiting to feel ready is like waiting for the fire before striking the match. Spiritually, the illusion of motivation is the ego's strategy to avoid surrender. It convinces you that you must feel perfect alignment before acting, when in truth, alignment is born from movement. "Arise and go," says the book of Jonah, "for the word of the Lord came to him." The command was not to feel inspired, but to move. Purpose reveals itself through obedience to the next step, not the entire path. When you take action in absence of motivation, you reverse the neural order of cause and effect. You become the generator, not the seeker of energy. And in that reversal, you awaken the ancient law of momentum, that energy in motion tends to stay in motion. Once you taste that flow, discipline stops feeling like effort. It becomes magnetic. Ask yourself, how many dreams have you postponed waiting for a feeling that only movement could create? The truth is that you don't need to wait for motivation to arrive. You need to ignite it through one act, 1 minute, one signal to your brain that says, "We're already moving." Tip 4. The hidden door of gamma waves. Every creative breakthrough, every moment of effortless concentration, every instant when time disappears and you become one with what you're doing, shares a single signature: gamma waves. They're the highest measurable frequency of the human brain, oscillating between 30 and 100 hertz, the rhythm of integration. While lower frequencies separate perception into fragments, thoughts, sensations, emotions, gamma unites them.
It's the neural language of coherence, where everything fires in harmony. When you access this frequency, the borders between you and what you're doing dissolve. Musicians report becoming the music. Writers feel as though the words write themselves. Athletes describe being in the zone. It's not poetry, it's physiology. Gamma synchronizes distant brain regions, prefrontal, parietal, temporal, allowing thought, emotion, and motion to function as one organism. In that moment, effort vanishes because the self that struggles to act is no longer in charge. Neuroscientists at the University of Wisconsin discovered that long-term meditators produce extraordinary bursts of gamma activity during deep focus or compassion states, far higher than control groups. The brain, when fully present, enters resonance with itself, and in that resonance lies the key to the flow state. You don't force it, you tune to it. Spiritually, this is the mind of Christ, the unified awareness described as the peace that surpasses all understanding. It's the same current mystics feel when they say they are guided, not guiding. When you shift from beta, the busy chatter of the thinking mind, into gamma, you're no longer pushing time, you're moving with it. You've stepped into the river of divine order, where action arises naturally, free from resistance. The tragedy is that most people live in static interference, jumping between doubt, overthinking, and guilt. Their brainwaves never align long enough to generate flow. But the door to gamma is always open. It doesn't require years of meditation. It begins with awareness, breath, and the courage to release control. In a world obsessed with effort, the true secret of productivity is surrender. Because when you align your brain's frequencies, life moves through you, not against you. 5. The 1-minute recalibration. You don't need an elaborate routine to change your state. You need 1 minute of precision. The secret lies in the way the nervous system responds to intentional shifts in breath, focus, and visualization. When these three align, they override the old neural pattern that keeps you frozen. In 60 seconds, the brain can reset its rhythm from chaos to coherence. Start by closing your eyes and inhaling deeply through the nose for 4 seconds. Feel the air expanding your chest, not as oxygen, but as light entering your body. Hold it for 2 seconds, then exhale through the mouth with intention, as if releasing static from your energy field. This simple act begins to calm the amygdala and activate the parasympathetic system. Your body interprets this as safety, and safety is the prerequisite for creation. Next, bring your attention to a single task, not the whole project, not the mountain of responsibilities, just one clear action. See it already complete. Imagine the feeling of relief and satisfaction, the mental stillness that follows completion. This isn't fantasy, it's neurotraining. By simulating success, you're activating the same neural circuits that would fire after finishing the task. The brain can't distinguish between imagined and real experience when emotion is present.
As this visualization merges with your breathing rhythm, gamma synchronization begins. You may feel subtle warmth, tingling, or mental quiet, signs that neurocoherence is emerging. What took hours of struggle now requires seconds of presence. The moment you feel the energy shift, move. Do the smallest possible action aligned with your vision. That single move seals the recalibration, translating intention into reality. This technique works because it speaks the brain's native language: energy before effort, coherence before command. It's not about forcing productivity, it's about creating the internal conditions where productivity becomes inevitable. Every time you repeat this 1-minute reset, you strengthen the pathway from intention to execution. Over time, the brain learns that action is the safest, most natural state. This is how the spiritual becomes biological. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The verse doesn't speak of years. Transformation happens in the instant awareness aligns with breath. In that moment, the mind remembers what the soul always knew. Movement is not forced, it flows. 6. Energy leaks, the silent killers of focus. Every mind operates on energy, not time. What drains your energy determines how much awareness you have left for creation. Most people don't lose focus because they lack discipline, they lose it through invisible leaks, tiny, constant discharges of attention that keep the brain from stabilizing in flow. These leaks are silent, but they erode coherence faster than any distraction you can see. The first leak is cognitive clutter. Each unresolved thought, the unread message, the postponed call, the decision you refuse to make consumes neural energy.
Functional MRI studies show that the prefrontal cortex lights up equally when you think about a task as when you perform it. Every later you carry is a background process consuming your bandwidth. The cure is simple but radical. Closure. Write it, decide it, or delete it. Mental clarity is energy conservation. The second leak is emotional rumination. When you replay conversations, regrets, or imagined outcomes, your limbic system floods the body with cortisol, narrowing attention and reducing working memory. Energy follows emotion, and emotion trapped in loops creates energetic hemorrhage. To seal this leak, the brain must experience completion, not justification. Accept the emotion, breathe through it, and release. The nervous system reads acceptance as resolution, freeing the focus to return. Digital overstimulation forms the third leak. Each notification triggers a dopamine spike, a mini reward that keeps the brain in perpetual craving. Over time, this desensitizes dopamine receptors, making sustained focus feel dull and unrewarding. This is why meditation and single tasking feel painful at first. The brain is detoxing from overstimulation. The restoration of flow begins with withdrawal from unnecessary input. Spiritually, energy leaks are places where consciousness forgets itself. Guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. When your attention is scattered across meaningless noise, your power dissipates. Focus is not the art of doing one thing, it's the art of withholding energy from what no longer serves your direction. Begin noticing where your mind travels when it's not guided. Each leak you close multiplies your available awareness, and as awareness condenses, it transforms into flow. Coherence is not achieved by addition, it's achieved by subtraction. When the unnecessary is removed, what remains is presence, and presence is pure energy. 7. The neuroarchitecture of action. Your environment is not passive, it's an extension of your nervous system. Every sound, color, texture, and pattern of light sends constant data to your brain, influencing your capacity for focus and action. What surrounds you either stabilizes your neural rhythms or scatters them. Architecture is not only physical, it's neurological. The space you inhabit shapes the frequency you operate in.
Studies in environmental psychology and neuroarchitecture reveal that cluttered or visually chaotic spaces increase cortisol levels and suppress the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning and decision-making. Disorganization forces the eyes to scan repeatedly, creating microbursts of cognitive fatigue. Conversely, clean lines, soft natural light, and balanced geometry reduce amygdala activity, signaling safety and allowing the mind to shift from defense to creation. This is why monasteries, studios, and sacred places feel effortless. Their design harmonizes with the brain's desire for symmetry. Sound operates the same way. Constant low-frequency noise keeps the body in a mild state of alert. Yet consistent rhythmic sounds like ambient rain, heartbeat tones, or frequencies around 432 Hz synchronize brainwaves, guiding the nervous system toward coherence. Light too has its rhythm. Exposure to morning sunlight resets the circadian clock, balancing serotonin and melatonin cycles. The flow state begins long before the task. It begins in the design of the atmosphere that surrounds it. Spiritually, the world outside mirrors the state within. As within, so without. When you bring order to your physical environment, you're performing an external prayer, a declaration that your inner world is ready for clarity. Every object becomes symbolic. The desk becomes an altar of attention, the chair a throne of focus. When the space aligns, the mind follows. Flow is not just a mental phenomenon, it's a spatial one. The moment your surroundings reflect the simplicity and purpose of your intent, action stops requiring force. You stop fighting your environment, and it starts supporting you. The most advanced technology you'll ever use for productivity is not your device, it's the room you sit in, tuned to the frequency of calm precision. 8. Time collapse. How flow bends perception. When you enter flow, time loses its grip. Minutes stretch into hours, or hours vanish into seconds, because the brain stops measuring the passage of time and starts experiencing it, the fullness of it. Neuroscience calls this temporal distortion. It happens when the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for self-monitoring and time tracking, temporarily deactivates, allowing consciousness to expand beyond linear perception. What feels like timelessness is the nervous system functioning in total harmony. During gamma synchronization, neural networks fire with such coherence that energy circulates without interruption. The brain stops oscillating between past and future, and awareness condenses into a single, eternal moment.
This is why in flow, effort dissolves. The concept of later disappears. You can't procrastinate when there is no after. The present becomes infinite. Researchers at Drexel University found that artists and athletes in peak performance showed reduced activity in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the same mechanism responsible for self-criticism and time awareness. The quieter that region became, the more fluid their actions turned. Flow bends time because it bends identity. Without the constant narrative of me observing the task, there's only motion, pure and uninterrupted. Spiritually, this mirrors the realm described in Scripture as eternity, not endless duration, but absence of separation. One day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. Time collapse is not fantasy, it's alignment with divine rhythm. When consciousness returns to its natural frequency, the illusion of delay fades. You move as the moment itself, not within it. In this state, productivity ceases to be measured in hours or output. The only metric becomes presence. Every action performed in this condensed awareness carries the power of undivided attention. What takes 10 hours in scattered thought can unfold in one when executed through flow. This is the hidden architecture of mastery, bending time through coherence, not speed. Once you understand that flow manipulates time, procrastination loses its foundation. You realize that hesitation only exists when you're outside the now. Inside it, there is no waiting, only becoming. 9. The emotional compass. Every emotion you feel is a signal, not a sentence. The brain uses emotion as feedback, a biological compass pointing toward coherence or fragmentation. When you feel resistance, it's not your spirit failing, it's your nervous system reporting misalignment. The mistake most people make is labeling emotion as good or bad. In truth, it's simply data, a vibration revealing where your consciousness stands in relation to its truth. Modern affective neuroscience confirms that emotions are predictive, not reactive. The brain doesn't wait for life to happen, it anticipates it, creating emotional states that prepare the body for what it expects. Fear, excitement, or dread are not responses to the future, they are simulations of it. When those predictions are distorted by doubt, trauma, or overthinking, the emotional compass loses calibration. The body resists motion because it cannot distinguish threat from opportunity. To restore direction, you must interpret emotion as instruction. Resistance means you're not congruent yet. Anxiety says you're expanding faster than you're grounding. Fatigue whispers, you've been running on thought, not alignment. When you decode emotion as language, procrastination becomes a mirror, showing the exact frequency mismatch between who you are and what you're trying to do. In studies on emotion regulation, participants trained to label their feelings, simply naming the emotion out loud, showed reduced amygdala activity and increased prefrontal coherence. Awareness itself regulates energy. This is the science behind the spiritual command, be still and know. Stillness doesn't silence emotion, it translates it. The moment you stop fighting what you feel, you gain access to what it's trying to say. From a spiritual lens, emotions are echoes of your higher alignment calling you home. They're not barriers to flow, they're road signs pointing back to it. The law of consciousness states that whatever you suppress multiplies, but whatever you witness with presence transforms. When you honor emotion as sacred communication, the nervous system stops defending and starts cooperating. So next time you feel that pull to delay, don't ask, what's wrong with me? Ask, what is this feeling teaching me? When emotion becomes guidance instead of judgment, every sensation, even discomfort, turns into a map leading straight to flow. 10. The quantum identity of action. Every action you take is not just a behavior, it's a selection of identity. In the quantum field, infinite versions of you already exist. The disciplined, the inspired, the stagnant, the awakened. Each decision you make aligns your consciousness with one of those versions. You don't become productive by learning new habits, you tune into the version of yourself that already is. Action, then, is not creation, it's resonance. Neuroscience mirrors this truth. Each repeated behavior strengthens neural pathways, forming identity circuits in the brain. The moment you act differently, even once, you activate a new circuit. If you repeat that action, the old self begins to decay through a process called synaptic pruning. Neurons that fire together, wire together, and those that don't, disappear. The self that procrastinates not through punishment, but through disuse. You are literally sculpting identity in real time, synapse by synapse.
Quantum physics explains it as the collapse of potential into actuality. Consciousness observes a possibility and makes it real through focus. When you choose to act, you are collapsing into the timeline of the doer. The energy field of that version of you becomes accessible. This is why decisive action often brings coincidences, resources, and opportunities that appear out of nowhere. You didn't attract them, you matched them. Spiritually, this is the principle of assumption that Neville Goddard taught. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It's not imagination, it's embodiment. Every action you take from that assumed state is not effort, it's evidence of identity. Scripture calls this faith made visible. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. The work isn't proof of belief, it is belief materialized. Each time you hesitate, you reinforce the identity of the one who waits. Each time you move, you reinforce the identity of the one who creates. It's not about how much you do, but from who you are doing it. The true transformation happens when the procrastinator stops trying to act differently and starts remembering who they already are in their highest coherence, the one who moves because movement is natural. When you see yourself as vibration, not personality, action becomes inevitable. You don't push to change, you align to embody. The future you're seeking already exists in another frequency. Your action is the bridge that tunes you to it. 11. The integrity field. Flow cannot exist in contradiction. The brain and heart synchronize only when thought, word, and action align under a single frequency. Truth. Integrity is not morality, it's energetic coherence. It's what happens when the nervous system no longer needs to split attention between what you think and what you do. Every lie, every small act of self-betrayal creates micro-friction in your neurocircuitry. The brain registers conflict, the heart loses rhythm, and flow collapses. Heart-brain synchronization studies by the HeartMath Institute reveal that when a person enters a state of genuine coherence, gratitude, sincerity, or compassion, their heartbeat and brainwave patterns harmonize into a single smooth frequency. This harmony increases focus, boosts the immune response, and even improves decision-making accuracy. Integrity, then, isn't an ethical accessory, it's biological alignment. The body literally functions better when you're honest with yourself. In contrast, when you act out of alignment, saying yes while meaning no, pretending to care while feeling resentment, your system fractures. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for intention and logic, conflicts with the limbic brain, which governs emotion. This internal disagreement consumes energy and triggers procrastination. Why? Because your brain refuses to act on an intention that contradicts your authentic vibration. Action without integrity feels unsafe, so the nervous system halts it. This is why self-deception breeds stagnation. You can't flow while pretending. The spirit only moves through transparency. The verse says, "The truth shall make you free." Not metaphorically, neurologically. When truth becomes your baseline, energy moves unimpeded. You no longer waste mental power reconciling conflicting narratives. Your word becomes law in your own consciousness. Integrity is also faith in motion. To act from alignment, even when it's inconvenient, trains the universe to trust your vibration. Life stops testing you when it knows your frequency won't bend under pressure. Flow emerges naturally because your internal and external worlds finally speak the same language. So the next time you feel blocked, don't ask what task you're avoiding, ask what truth you're avoiding. The moment you stand in coherence, procrastination loses its function. There is nothing left to resist. Movement becomes inevitable because nothing inside you argues with the motion anymore. 12. The revelation of effortless motion. Conclusion. There comes a moment when effort itself becomes obsolete. When the mind stops pushing and the body starts remembering. What you once called productivity turns into pure presence, and what you called procrastination reveals itself as guidance, not failure. The journey from stagnation to flow isn't about conquering resistance, it's about understanding it, decoding it, and transforming it into movement. Everything you've learned leads here. Coherence, the alignment of thought, emotion, and action into one undivided current. In neuroscience, it's gamma synchronization. In spirituality, it's divine harmony. In life, it's grace, the state where everything you do carries the weight of purpose without the heaviness of effort. You are no longer acting for outcomes. You are acting as the outcome already fulfilled. When you reach this frequency, time stops chasing you. The inner critic dissolves. The task ahead no longer feels separate from who you are.
You've entered the rhythm of creation itself, where action flows like breath, automatic, essential, effortless. It's the same state described in Scripture when it says, "In Him we live and move and have our being." The essence of flow is not speed, but surrender. Procrastination was never your enemy. It was your teacher, showing you every place where fear still outweighed faith, where identity clung to limitation, where your energy was fragmented. Once those lessons integrate, resistance disappears, because there's no longer a war between who you are and what you do. The soul and the system speak the same frequency. Now, if these words have reawakened something within you, if you feel that subtle pulse of energy rising as you listen, anchor it here and now. In the comments, write the declaration, "I choose flow now." Let it be more than a phrase. Let it be a command to your nervous system, a signature of coherence, a signal to the quantum field that you're ready to move in unity with your own creation. Because in truth, you never lacked focus, drive, or purpose. You only forgot how to move with the current that has always carried you. Flow isn't found, it's remembered. The future isn't waiting, it's already vibrating within you. All that's left is to act from it, effortlessly, now.